It's always funny listening to Libby speak the poem "Don't," because every time she speaks does that poem, I think about all the years before I knew Libby, and when she lists off different things, wondering, did I actually do that when I was younger? But luckily, I don't do any of those things anymore, including the biological weapons. So
yeah,
thank
right.
you, dear, for being a good influence. Anyways. On a more serious note, one of my great inspirations for my poetry lately has been some pretty neat students I've gotten a chance to encounter this semester. As I said last week when I spoke, some of my students that inspire me the most are some of my veterans who have just recently returned from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. This was written for a veteran. Veteran is about 45 years old. Just left the service recently, and wanted to come to my office not to talk about history, but to talk about religion. He's a person searching out a lot of things, recently moved to this community, and unfortunately has not found the things so far that he's been looking for, especially the type of, perhaps, camaraderie he might hope to find in a community like this. He comes to search out meaning, wanting more than holy books and empty words. Claims that he has never found the Lord, but he doesn't need some deity to tell him to be a good man. His eyes look so panicked, so many questions, and he thinks that he's alone. The old lady down the road from him told him he was going to hell because he desecrated the holy temple of his body with a few tattoos. He told her that God commanded us not to judge, and someday she'd be joining him there. Not exactly the best way to make friends in a new town, but then again, she could have just brought over a plate of cookies. He asked how someone with a mind could believe a word of those books, like a man living inside the belly of a whale. Did Noah really live to be 950? And how on earth could a 100-year-old Moses carry down 2 stone tablets from the side of a mountain? I answer his question with another question. Does it really matter? I'm glad I had no answers for him, because in the end, do any of us really know? This next piece I literally wrote about 2 minutes before we left to come down here tonight, which is why we're a few minutes late. This piece was inspired by media pundits that I've seen over the last couple of weeks. On the one hand, starting to begin to embrace the idea of people of Egypt embracing democracy, embracing freedom, but seem to have changed gears quite quickly, and I can say that as a historian in a very blatantly racist way. This piece is for Glenn Beck. So what do you do when Pandora's box has been opened? When people take your trite slogans of freedom to the streets and make them come alive. There in Tahrir Square, a new generation has been born. I look at those images, I'm cheering in the streets, remembering scenes of the Berlin Wall, perhaps another Velvet Revolution. But the commentators' fear shatters my sense of hope. They try to claim that it's not in the Arab's DNA to appreciate self-rule. Is this the new white man's burden? When the Filipino asked President McKinley for the same basic rights, we burnt down their villages, sent them to concentration camps, and the president claimed after weeks of prayer that God had told him that those people, well, they weren't ready to be free. So we do what we do, and when the same God of Abraham inspires a freedom we can't control, well, as General McCarthy tritely confessed once, this is not a war to make the world safe for democracy, it's a war to make the world safe for us. His peace and blessings be upon you, dear Egypt. May the guns of war fall silent, and the land of the great prophets finally now become free. This last piece is dedicated to 2 different groups I've seen. Number one, the first time I attempted to do spoken word on the spoken word in this community. I was on campus. I was trying to tell the story of a young boy being killed during the Holocaust. And I witnessed a group of 18-year-old students sit there and giggle back and forth to each other and text to their friends. This is also dedicated to a group of students. The first time that I ever came down here for spoken word at 25 May and listened to a local woman tell the story about her young son being killed. And had to listen to a group of girls in the next room sit there and laugh the entire time as a woman poured out her heart to this entire room. I spent years traveling among the sinners, the heathens, the atheists of the world. So when I had the opportunity to move among the saints, my heart smiled. My soul felt blessed for such a gift. But as I spent more time in this holy land, I confess, I missed the junkies, the criminals, the wayward kids who came out looking for something, anything, some sense of community. But here I see a people who claim the promised restoration, but who sold their soul for a new SUV, who can't even take a moment to show fellow child of God even 2 minutes of silent respect. Thank you.
I love Joel's stuff. It always makes me like just go into a coma of thought. It's kind of a contradiction, but that's what it does. It's great. I love it. So give Joel another round of applause. I forgot. I was gonna say when Libby read the Don't poem. As some of the things were coming up, I was like, oh, that's just ridiculous. And then I had this image flash in my mind of my childhood, and one of my friends chasing me with a weed whacker as I chased after him with a lawnmower, like up on its back with the blades going. We do stupid things, and we need to be told not to do those stupid things. Next up, we're going to hear from Chelsea. So please welcome her up with a warm round of applause. Oh, also,